6 a.m. June 7th. Less than an hour of darkness left over Lake Savash. The horizon is already going gray at its edge, and out on the salt flats, there is nowhere to hide from the light that's coming. 2 Ukrainian drones climb off the deck and turn south. One is an FP-2, a heavy strike drone carrying a 105-kilogram warhead. The other is built for a single job: reach the Chonhar Bridge, the concrete artery that feeds occupied Crimea across the marsh, and put a hole in it. They level off just above the ground and settle onto a heading. From here, the mission is nothing but distance and timing. Cross the flats, stay under the radar, reach the bridge before the dark runs out. They fly at a few meters, under the big radars, inside the only corridor the terrain allows, a flat salt channel with no cover and no second route. The same corridor the defenders on the far side already know by heart. They have flown it before. So has everyone who has ever tried to reach this bridge, and a peninsula the size of a small country starts to run dry. The drones have the range. That was never the question. The hard part isn't the target, it's the ground between here and there, a stretch of marsh that has been turned into a kill box, tuned to notice one thing above all others: the moment a transmitter switches on, because out here, whoever turns on the signal dies first. That single rule shapes everything that follows. The drones drop lower. Down here, the ground blurs past close enough to read. Wormwood, mud, the black shine of standing salt water. Nothing rises higher than a fence post in any direction, and that emptiness is the plan. Here's the detail that decides everything. A big air surveillance radar can only see what sits above its horizon. Radar travels in a straight line, and the earth curves away beneath it. But the marsh gives with one hand and takes with the other. Lake Savash isn't a lake. It's a vast, shallow sprawl of salt water and soft mud. The shallows the old maps called the Putrid Sea. There is no straight, forgiving line across it. The firm ground, the predictable ground, runs in only a few directions, and only a handful of those point at the bridge. So the drone that flies low to survive is forced into a lane. No cover, no second route. Picture a 4-lane approach shrunk down to a single footpath with a drop on either side. That's the choice the terrain leaves you, and any planner on either side, staring at the same map, picks the same thin corridor. Fly where it's safe, and you fly where they're already looking. That's the first wall, and it isn't a weapon, it's the ground itself, funneling everything that comes through into one predictable line, straight toward whatever is waiting in it. Now the second wall. The thing built to sit in that lane and close it. Short-range air defense. The system like the Tor. Picture a tracked vehicle with its own radar and 8 missiles standing ready on the rail, designed for exactly this problem. Targets that come in low, small, and fast. Cruise missiles, drones, precision munitions skimming the deck. It sits forward, right up close to whatever it's guarding, and its whole job is to swat down the things that slip under the big radar's horizon, the exact things the terrain has just funneled into its lane. On paper, it is the answer to the drone. It is the last line a strike like this has to beat, and it is very good at what it does. A system like the Tor is command-guided. Its radar doesn't just find the target, it has to stay lit and fly the missile all the way to impact, correcting it the whole way in. It has to be radiating to kill, and the instant it radiates, it is doing the one thing that gets you killed out here. It is emitting all that firepower, and it's thin-skinned, a tracked box of electronics with a radar dish on top. It's a home alarm system that has to shout across the whole house to do its job. Genuinely hard to slip past, right up until the shout tells everyone listening exactly which room it's standing in. Formidable when it's hunting, a beacon the moment it starts. The third wall doesn't fire anything, it listens. Every radio-controlled drone has a person on the far end of a signal, and a signal is a thread. Pull it, and it leads back to a human being. Russian counter-drone units have gotten very good at pulling that thread, not chasing the drone in the air, but chasing the crew on the ground. But the spec sheet leaves one thing out. A radio link isn't only a command going up to the drone, it's a transmitter shining in every direction, and a transmitter can be located. Set up 2 or 3 listening stations, measure the direction the signal arrives from at each one, and where those bearings cross is a point on a map. In some stretches of the front, units built to do exactly this have been credited with taking out a large share of drone operator positions. That's the world every Ukrainian team operates inside. but also no eyes, no judgment, no way to react if the target has moved or the picture has changed. Fly it by hand instead, a human on the sticks, watching a live feed, correcting in real time. And it can chase things that move, thread a specific span, put the warhead exactly where a machine wouldn't know to. But that control has a price, and the price is a signal. And a radio link obeys the same physics as everything else out here. It travels line of sight and the Earth curves. Push the drone past roughly 50 kilometers and the direct link runs out of horizon. The same curve that hides you from the radar now hides you from your own operator. To keep flying it that deep, you need a relay, another drone, orbiting high, catching the commands, and passing them forward to the striker below. Hold that thought, because the relay is the whole problem in miniature. It buys you reach, and it radiates to buy it. A jammer on the ground can drown a low direct link in seconds. But a repeater riding high, in clear line of sight between the trench and the target, is far harder to shout down, which is exactly why it flies. It solves one problem by becoming another, one more signal in the sky that can't go quiet. Go silent to hide, and you don't hide. You just lose the drone. So stack the 4. The terrain funnels the package into one narrow lane the enemy already watches. Air defense waits in that lane, ready to fire the second it lights its own radar. Signal hunters sit off to the side, listening for any uplink they can trace back to a crew, and the drone's own control link, the very thing keeping it alive and on course, is a beacon that cannot switch off. 4 separate walls, one rule underneath all of them. To act, you have to emit. To emit is to be found. The terrain, the missile, the hunters, the link, every one of them punishes the same thing, the flick of a switch, the moment a signal goes live. And in the last Dark Before Dawn on June 7th, the drones cross all 4. They come in over the Sivash low and quiet, threading the corridor foot by foot, holding the line the terrain allows, and nothing more. No radar rises to meet them in time. No missile leaves the rail. Whatever was waiting in the lane, the strike reaches the bridge before the trap can close. Among them flies the Behemoth, a new Ukrainian design on its first combat mission. And then the warhead goes into the deck. Not a fireball for the cameras. A hole punched clean through the driving surface of the bridge. That's all it takes. A truck can't cross a meter-wide gap in the road, and a fuel column stacked up behind it can't simply swing around the hole. Not on a narrow 2-lane span suspended over open marsh, with nowhere to go but forward or back. One breach in the deck, and the whole crossing seizes. Within hours, the occupation authorities closed Chonhar and pushed traffic the long way around through Armyansk and Perekop, adding hours and kilometers to every load bound for the front. Then Ukraine makes the point twice. 2 days later, on June 9th, a second strike comes back to Chonhar and finishes the job. Traffic halted completely. The bridge left unusable rather than merely damaged. It was never about dropping the span into the water. It was about making it useless. In a logistics war, disabled and destroyed are the same word. Nothing crosses either way. Here's what the strike actually proves, and it's bigger than one bridge. In a war fought through radio and radar, it isn't the side that hides best that wins. Everyone hides. Hiding is the baseline. The side that wins is the one that controls who has to emit and when, who is forced to switch on the radar first, key the transmitter first, reach for the light first. Look back at the 4 walls, and they were never really 4 different problems. The terrain, the radar, the hunters, the link, every one of them ran on the same rule. The rule that made this crossing so dangerous in the first place. Turn on the signal and you can be found. The one who turns on the light dies first. And that's the whole craft of a strike like this. Not flying faster, not hiding better. Reaching the target while forcing the other side to be the one who blinks. The one who lights the radar, keys the mic, reaches for the switch at exactly the wrong moment. Win that, and the missiles never leave the rail. Chonhar is what it looks like when you win it. Step back from the crater and it gets bigger than one span of concrete. The R-280 is one of the main arteries into occupied Crimea, and Chonhar is a choke point on it, one of only a handful of ways heavy traffic can move onto the peninsula across the marsh. Sever it, and every ton of fuel and every crate of ammunition bound for Crimea has to find a longer, thinner, more exposed way in. And a longer road isn't only a slower road, it's more hours under drone watch, more fuel burned just to deliver fuel. More trucks strung out on routes that were never built to carry the whole weight of an occupation. You don't have to destroy the supplies, you only have to make them expensive, and this lands at exactly the wrong moment for the occupation. Crimea is already running short on fuel, squeezed directly by Ukraine's campaign against these very routes. Cutting Chonhar doesn't start that pressure, it tightens it, because this was never a one-off. Chonhar has been hit again and again across 2026. Not as isolated raids, but as part of a deliberate, patient effort to strangle the logistics that hold the occupation together. One damaged bridge is an incident, a pattern of them, hit and hit and hit again until the reroutes need reroutes of their own, is something else. That's a strategy, and this is the strategy working, one severed artery at a time. 4 walls stood between 2 drones and a bridge deep inside occupied territory. The marsh that funneled them into the open, the missiles waiting in the lane, the hunters listening for a signal to trace, and the fragile thread of the link that kept the whole strike flying. The one thread that could also get it found. Which wall would have stopped you? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to see how Ukraine has pushed strikes like this even deeper into Russian territory, watch this one next.